Tunnel Mill is located within the Crosley Fish and Game Area just south of Vernon. Crosley Fish and Wildlife Area is made up of 4,288 acres of rolling hills, ponds, and the Muscatatuck River. Most of the terrain is covered with steep to gently rolling hills. Its name comes from Powell Crosley, who purchased the land in the 1930s and maintained it as a private hunting and fishing area. The state purchased the land in 1958. Now, before we take our hike to Tunnel Mill, it's important that you visit either the North American House, where they have some paintings, or Perceptions, where they have Balser's big painting of the Tunnel Mill itself. And I think it's important to see it from the artist's point of view, but also because it depicts it as it looked at certain stages. Today, only the chimney remains, but in this painting by Balser, Dalton Balser, you can see Baldwin's cabin in the background, as well as the structure of the mill and how the grain must have been shoved down into the mill itself to grind. And I think that's an incredible gift that we have to be able to see it at that time. The ones at the paintings at the North American House also depict it like it was at the beginning. There are also photographs by Wilker that depict it at various points of time. And to be able to see those and then take the hike to Tunnel Mill makes the trip to Tunnel Mill much more valuable in my mind. Tunnel Mill was one of 18 mills located in Jennings County, most of which were smaller, and its location near Vernon and transportation made it one of the most successful. It was built between 1817 and 1824 by Ebenezer Baldwin. So we will start the walking tour at the Baldwin Cemetery. Baldwin Cemetery, named after Ebenezer Baldwin, is located on County Road 25 West. Baldwin and his wife, Elizabeth Hess Baldwin, are buried in Johnson County. The cemetery has, according to Find a Grave, 495 burials. You'll notice many Civil War monuments. Now, as we go down towards Tunnel Mill, the trail is what I call treacherous. The geologists have said it is marginally rugged in places, so be careful not to fall or twist your ankle. On wet days, it can even be slippery. As you look to your left, you might envision a road or imagine Baldwin's residence above the mill. It was a huge log home. Today, all we will see of the mill is the chimney. We call them cabins now, but they were really quite extensive log homes. And they were all usually made from the native timber. A lot of poplar and walnut that we passed you may have recognized. And so they would square off these trees and build a home and a residence. And then he lived down here. And it ran from about 1824 until around 1890, 1900. It may have been a little earlier. It was sold at one point to a Mr. Siddell, and it closed down during that time. But by that time, there were several other mills around. One article listed 18, but I know of a few more to that list. So one of the things I'm doing as I research other things is to try to identify all the mills that were around. Some of them were quite small. This was a grist mill. They would load in the wheat and bring to the mill to have it ground into flour. Later on in its existence, it made paper, and I think there was at one point, it may have been during the Civil War, it made wool, or, it made fabric type of thing. But it was a magnificent thing. Now, the building itself almost seems less important than the architecture of the tunnel and how the water was forced in order to run the mill. So we'll go on down to the side of the tunnel. I can see how they cut and blasted out this trough. So the river's on the other side, and they dammed up the river, forced the water in through this tunnel once they had it blasted out, down the trough. So the wheel is probably about where you're standing, or because if you notice where the building, the chimney is, and you see all the photographs, I think that the mill actually stood there where we see rocks, etc. And then the water would come into the wheel and turn the grist mill. And then this was considered kind of a mill pond. It was built by and operated by Baldwin, but it was said to have been engineered by John Vawter, the founder of Vernon. Imagining the large 4-story mill with its paddle wheel, it makes it easy to understand why it was called the most picturesque spot in the entire county. People have said it was the dream of a genius, i.e. Vawter, and built by a master hand, Baldwin. The chimney tells us a little bit about how the mill might have looked constructed from the rocks and local timber. In the 1840s, they installed steam, but before that, the mill depended solely on water. As you can see, the tunnel itself is about 12 to 15 feet wide and 4 to 5 feet high. The dam, which we will see on the other side of the tunnel, forced enough water through the tunnel from north to south to furnish the force for the water power that ran the stone burr grinding system for the manufacture of flour. After the railroad was built in Vernon in 1837, the owners had an easy way to transport the flours to other parts of the Midwest. You can also see that they excavated a channel in the bottom of the tunnel, approximately 4 feet wide and 4 feet deep, for a vast trough constituting the mill race, which flowed to the large turbine wheel. The mill operated until 1880, when Mr. Siddell, who owned it at that time, ceased operations and decided to drill for oil. Instead, he struck natural gas and harnessed it for the light and heat of Vernon for several years. Be careful, should I say extra careful, as you walk through the tunnel. Most people advise not to go through it, but we will show you the interior and the north side so you can imagine with rushing water how it might have been. Notice the uneven nature of the floor and the ceiling. We are now on the mill's north side. To me, it's lovely because the Muscatatuck River winds through the rustic countryside and the rocks provide a peaceful meditation spot. You might be lucky to even see or find a fossil. If you look towards the north, you will see the Vernon Cemetery, the monuments. As we leave the site, remember to review our short 2-page history available on the website, but also remember to climb back up the hill very carefully. It may feel less dangerous than going down, but it's still wise to be cautious.